Action!
Activate!
Hey there, what's going on? It's me, Gazbot, for Action Activate. And if this is Action Activate and I'm Gazbot, then with me as always is Splinter. Wait, no, that's not right. A different animal, the big dog.
It is I, the big dog. Today, I am the turtle dog, and I too am accompanied by a turtle named Michelangelo.
Yours is free from their plastic prison. Mine is still on the fence as to whether or not I'm going to keep them.
That's right. I have his brethren still in a prison of their own, so...
I mean, well, you can see behind me, I've got plenty that have been freed.
I can't see. That's too far. I'm assuming you're a liar.
So, okay, we're taking a break from Power Rangers, talking about Turtles. Specifically, we're talking about Mutant Mayhem, the new movie that I guess debuted this past weekend, although I saw it like Wednesday and other people
I think it technically came out on Wednesday.
Okay, so I saw it the day it came out, but it wasn't like a midnight release or anything. And I know for a fact you could buy tickets Tuesday and Monday. And this isn't even like the early press stuff. Like you could just buy tickets. So it was a weird rollout. But anyway, we all saw it in this zone here now. And
we did. I saw it.
They're going to be spoilers. We're just going to talk about full spoilers. So if you're not going to see it, fine. Here you go. And if you're going to see it, maybe come back later.
Before we go into spoilers, let's give a spoiler-free, just like initial knee-jerk take, and then we'll dive into it.
Well, for those people that watch this, I talk about Turtles a lot, and I guess just the history of like I'm a big Turtles fan. It's one of my top 10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I got a lot of things I love. And I was like as close to first generation as you can. Arguably, I'm second generation because I didn't get those first couple black and white comics and like, whoa, what is this? I got into the show like as the show was coming out. I was getting into the comics. So like I kind of discovered the black and white comics like a month or two before the show came out. And I remember having that disconnect of like, this doesn't seem like that, but I am excited for that. And so I got into both at the same time. I collected the toys. I saw the live action movie in the theater and I loved all of it. And everything that's come out since then, I've had varying degrees of interest. My favorite thing since the original was not the current Rise of the Turtles on Nickelodeon, but the one before that I thought was great. And I also like there was a CGI animated one called TMNT in like 2005 or something, which I also enjoyed. And I never saw the Michael Bay movies. So I think I don't like them, but I can't give an informed opinion. So that's where I was coming to this movie from. Some of it I've liked, some of it I haven't liked.
I am coming at it a later generation. I came into it playing the NES game a lot as a kid. And watching
a terrible game that is so hard.
First of all, it's not terrible. It's a great game, but it is hard. Second of all, it is definitely of the time. But I still have a lot of fun with it. But it is really, really hard.
I convinced myself it was good until I played the arcade game, and then I was like, "This is a much better game."
Well, the arcade game is just a reskin of the X-Men arcade game. But anyways, back to me. So I played that as a kid. I watched reruns of the 80s animated show. And then I actually am, I haven't rewatched it as an adult, but I was a big Next Mutation fan as a kid, simply because I didn't think it was terrible. And then once they crossed over with Power Rangers, I'm like, all right, something's up with this crew. I'm down. I've read more comics that Turtles are in than Turtles comics, but I'm trying to go back and start at the beginning and kind of read forward. So I would say, I don't know if they're in my top 10 because I also like a lot of things, but I definitely am a Turtles fan. Like I consider myself a Turtles fan. Looking at my Turtles display right here.
You probably have as much, I'm not going to say you're as big of a fan because that's a weird thing to say, but you have as much familiarity with Turtles media as I do. But for you, I feel like it's more towards the modern going back, and mine is more towards the back coming to modern.
Correct. Yeah. We meet somewhere in the middle where we're both like, 90s movie good? 90s movie good. Like, but speaking of good movies, we rambled enough. So my knee-jerk reaction for this movie, I thought it was really good.
I loved it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, about a half hour in, I turned to my wife who I watched it with, and I went, "I love this movie," and then went back to watching. So that is as spoiler free as we're getting.
Yeah. Moving on to spoiler territory. I somehow managed to imagine avoid almost all the trailers. I knew what the turtles looked like. I've seen the pictures of the characters. I knew a couple of the actors that were doing the voices, but I didn't really know the plot. I didn't know that like Shredder wasn't going to be in it. Like I did a pretty good job of not seeing it.
Yeah.
And so that always enhances, if it's a good movie, always enhances it for me. And again, a big overview. What I had said to my wife, who didn't come with me, and this is a bit of an exaggeration, but just in terms of like a comparison, I was like, it's kind of like Into the Spider-Verse light.
Yes.
It's not quite as good as that, but it has a unique style and it's its own take and it's kind of funky and it doesn't go the way you're going to expect it to. And like, so that's the only thing I could think of to compare it to.
I think they both do a great job. And I described, when I was telling my dad about this, I told him that as somebody who is not considered a youth anymore, I felt like it did a very good job of appealing to a younger audience, but without it being like fabricated to be young, if that makes sense. Like,
it felt real, but who knows if young people will agree.
I guess since we're both not young folks anymore, but the fact that teenagers played the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a big thing for me. I enjoyed
the banter
that.
In between I found very fun and believable and realistic. And actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you first.
I saw an interview with the actors and Seth Rogen, and they were talking about how they had them all in the booth together.
I was going to say that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. No, that was going to be a fun fact where Seth Rogen, to elaborate on it, he said when he worked on Lion King and he was Pumbaa, that was something that was unique to that experience for him, of everybody who was in the scene together would record together, and it built such as good chemistry that he wanted to do that for this film. And once I knew that going in, I'm like, oh yeah, that made this at least 5 times better.
And I didn't know that going in because I was trying not to watch stuff, you know? But it's funny because he said like it was unique to this, but actually like that back in the day, that was usually done that way. Like you could find videos of old Thundercats episodes with the cast in a room together. And at some point, because of technology and expediency, that's become less and less common. But I love that he did that. And specifically with the kids playing the turtles, he was saying like they started like throwing script out and like they're just bantering and goofing around. Like just record that. Record that, you know, and like, and the big scene, I think you were going to say that is in the movie that it was kind of them improvising was.
Yeah, it was, they're in the sewer, and I think it's when they go back either before the surprise party or something like that, but they're just riffing together and they bring up TikTok and some people on TikTok and stuff. And it felt very organic and good. And one thing I appreciate just in any form of media is when a creator is self-aware enough to know to let, you know, the people on the project, if it's better, if them riffing together and ad-libbing is better than what you wrote, let them do that. And Seth Rogen is very self-aware in that sense.
Yeah, take a good idea, no matter where it comes from. That wasn't even the scene I was thinking of. There's a scene where I think it's after they beat up the first criminals, and April's kind of like, what do you do? Like she's filming them, and like, are you filming us? She's like, I don't film everything you do. And then they started pretending to be like New Yorkers, like, hey, I'm from New York, bacon and eggs, I'm a bacon and eggs, and they all just started doing their own little thing.
Bacon, egg, and cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese.
Bacon, egg, and cheese. That's what it was. It's just like, this isn't gonna help you. And apparently most of that scene was just them like just making fun of New Yorkers in a goofy way, and they were just like, well, okay, let's animate that.
Speaking of New Yorkers in the movie, I don't know if this person's from New York, but you'll know. Did you get the cameo at the end of somebody from Turtle history in the film?
Shredder? What do you mean?
Kevin Eastman.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Was the human that helped Splinter at the end. He's like, hey, are you all right? That was Kevin Eastman.
Oh, I did not know that. I noticed that they had two businesses, an Eastman's and a Laird's in there. Oh, so does it draw him like him, or was it his voice, or both?
I think it's both. Because of the style, like you would know better than me. I'm like, I guess that looks like him. I didn't spot it right away, but
I mean, I know what he looks like now, and I know what he looked like in like 1985. So if it looked like one of those two versions,
him now.
Okay, yeah, he kind of looks like a heavy metal dude a little bit, like
Kind of. He had a cap on and had a little scruff, and
yeah,
like
that
it,
sounds like
it did. Once they said it, I'm like, but when I was watching, I'm like, I feel like that might be somebody. I don't know. So
that makes sense. It's a bummer they didn't have Peter in it too, but I know there's like animosity between the two of them, unfortunately now. You know what's funny is going back to not knowing who people are, because I was trying to I knew there was some celebrity cast. Like I knew Seth Rogen did one of the voices and stuff. And but I was watching it, and the turtles all had either no accent or a New York accent, depending how you want to describe it. But Splinter had this really thick Asian accent, and like where like English is a second language. And I'm like, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, why does he have such a different accent from them? Like, I guess he grew up in Chinatown. Like they didn't really explain it. And I was like, and then I was almost like, is this like people making fun of like Jackie Chan? Like, is this someone? It almost sounds like someone making fun of Jackie Chan. And then I'm like, oh wait, it is Jackie Chan. Oh, it's Jackie Chan. But like, I literally went on this journey of like, what is this voice? What are they trying to do? Wait, are they making fun of Is this offensive? No, it's Jackie Chan. Awesome.
yeah. The only so I knew most of the actors and actresses beforehand, and the only two I couldn't tell in the movie was Utrom and Ray Fillet, and I had to look at the credits. Maya Rudolph.
Oh right, yeah.
And then Ray Fillet was Post Malone, which I thought was hilarious because all they did was sing the whole time.
That one I wouldn't have known because I know who Post Malone is, but I wouldn't have recognized the voice. You know, I also like, speaking of voices, Paul Rudd in the credits at the end is like introducing Paul Rudd, who is Mondo Gecko.
I imagined that every time Paul Rudd went in, can you move your mic a little bit closer to you? Thank you. I was getting echo, that's why.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better. I imagined every time he went in, he had like a backward, upside down visor on his head.
Yes.
And he's just doing all of his lines like that with like a vest on.
No pants.
Yeah, just hey. No, that was perfect. Yeah. He was great. I thought Seth Rogen's accent that he gave for Bebop was pretty funny. It was like kind of Canadian-ish.
I mean, it was just sort of goofy monster-ish. Like I didn't place it as Canadian necessarily, but yeah, I had no real issue with it. Like I haven't heard a lot of people. Well, here's the thing: there are people that don't like this movie, and like I'm on Turtle fan boards, and generally the response has been more positive than like say a recent Marvel movie or Star Wars movie or something where people are
absolutely.
Like, but there are people who don't like it, and the people who don't like it, I don't know what their problem with it is because it's like not being like it's not as good as I thought, but there are people like it's garbage and like, but they're not necessarily elaborating. There's like, oh, you like that garbage, and it's like, what makes it garbage exactly? Yeah. You know, like, is it different than other versions we've gotten? Yes, but as we started at the beginning of the show, the comic was different from the very first show, from the very first movie, and every version since. There's certain kind of like core things that you want the Turtles to be, but even that could be different. You know, sometimes it's a dark samurai story, and other times it's comedy. So I feel like it's totally okay for somebody to say, I didn't like this. This wasn't for me, whatever. But the people that are saying it's garbage, that's just not true. It's not garbage.
Yeah, I don't get what would be garbage about it. One thing I really liked about this that I know was a core change, but made perfect sense was, how did they learn martial arts? They literally learned from the internet. I'm like, yes, that makes perfect sense.
That was fine with me, and I have seen a few people complain about that. But then you have to remember, okay, in the original comics, because it's always Splinter learns it, he teaches the Turtles. Okay, so Splinter in the original comics, it was like the original movie. He was a rat mimicking my master's movements from my cage. This was before he was a mutant. A normal rat watched a human, learned martial arts to the level of a master. That's how it happened originally. Then in here's the funny thing: in the goofy cartoon version from '87 to the '90s, Hamato Yoshi, the human who knew martial arts, was turned into a rat. That one made more sense than any of the others because he had a skill, then turned into a mutant. All the others have some weird version of, so they learned it from the internet. Fine. Is it unbelievable? Yes, but so are all the other ways they've learned.
So here's the thing. It's actually parts of it are unbelievable, but it's not as unbelievable as you think. And the reason I say that is I don't anymore, but I used to train in something called tricking or martial arts tricking. Yeah. And I actually just watched on CBS Sports. They had an event for it where people tricked, and a lot of them, when they were doing interviews, and I met at this point dozens of people who have this exact same backstory where tricking has been around since the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was kind of an underground thing. They got popular in certain circles, yada, yada, yada. But so many of the up-and-comers and kids who are in like their 20s now all said, I watched so-and-so on YouTube and trained in my backyard, and now you're seeing them do these insane flips the turtles are doing. So I'm like, it's not that far-fetched because I've seen it in person. Because like, they can't throw a certain kick a type of way, like if you train in martial arts, but they could do all these other crazy things that I couldn't dream of doing. And I'm like, how'd you do that? Oh, I watched Mike so-and-so, and for like a year and a half, I just practiced in my backyard with a mattress to land on if I fell. And I'm like, good enough for me. And, you know.
And, you know, that makes sense too, stretching. Again, it's all stretching believability. I mean, they're mutants, turtles. But going with that, the one thing they would lack would be combat experience. And the first combat they have, they mess it up completely. Like they succeed just because they're in shape and young and like, you know, but like they're not like, hey, we owned these guys with combat. It was very silly.
Task successfully.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, then there are people that complain about the way April looks, which is just stupid. Like I don't even know what but even if you like, that doesn't ruin the movie, even if you don't like that. Oh, okay. I'll tell you my complaint, my biggest complaint. And I say that in quotes because it's not really a complaint. I like the movie. But the thing that for a minute I was like, oh, what? That's weird. Was, again, big spoilers, end of the movie. They become the big heroes. Yeah. And by the way, that journey was great where they're trying to become heroes for the wrong reason. Like, well, let's do it. And it's corny and it's cheesy, but it's true. And it was great, you know? Yeah. And this movie is for kids. Like this is this is the new generation of turtle fans. Whatever cartoons are on, I guess whatever. This is the one I could see kids like being like, remember that movie, you know? And at the end, because they're famous and heroes now, they're allowed to go to high school, which they always wanted. That may or may not work out for them, but it's like they're living normal, not hidden in the sewer life, which, as far as I know, has never been done. I mean, we've had them walking on the street and like, you know, like people not being afraid of them or whatever, but like, I don't know that they've ever been integrated as like normal people.
Yes.
So because of that, I'm like, what? How is that going to work? And then I was like, who cares? Just don't be an old grump about it. It's a new thing they're doing. It's fine. It doesn't ruin the movie. See what happens in the sequel. That's fine. But that was the only moment I felt myself having that pushback of like, what is this? And then I was like, it's fine. It's fine.
I had one minor complaint that's even less complaining than that.
Okay.
Believe it was in the flashback of Splinter explaining why they can't go up into the world. And when he's chased down the alley, I'm pretty positive one of those guys is supposed to be Casey Jones.
Oh.
Because it looked like a silhouette. I think he was holding a hockey stick.
Okay.
And like, really, my only complaint is that A, it wasn't elaborated further other than that, and B, I'm curious to see what their version of Casey Jones is in this. Because personally, not that anybody's listening to me unless Seth Rogen happens to watch minor YouTube channel, but to me, if it follows that where like the turtles are very small, and there's a guy who's essentially just a grown-up Casey Jones already, is for this, the turtles are obviously younger than we're used to, and Casey Jones is a guy who's like in his mid-30s who, you know, used to be an athlete, but is kind of washed up in this, but he still wants to do something and has all these feelings and a golf bag, and then teams up with the turtles as like a pseudo mentor, but kind of not.
Almost and like a Peter B. Parker, where he's kind of a loser.
And then you get to take out the dynamic of him and April, and he just gets to be Casey, and she just gets to be April, and it's all good, and it's its own thing.
And leaving him out and leaving Shredder out, which is like kind of a bold move, you know, because that's like the go-to guy. That gives us something that, you know, if the movie does well, which it seems like it is, and they do a sequel, you got Casey and or Shredder, and we haven't brought in Crank. Like, yeah, they did a new villain. I mean, it was sort of Baxter Stockman, but not really. And they did it. Yeah, they did the whole movie without using the stereotypical villains you'd expect for the Turtles, and without many of their side characters that you would expect. So that
another thing they did differently that I forgot is they integrated all of the rogues as like their friends who live with them.
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. And
Well,
I really
some
like
of them were heroes originally, but it was all of them became.
So, which ones are heroes? Just for those not in the turtle know.
Rasputin, the frog.
Okay.
He was one of the,
Does he eventually turn into a hero?
yeah, one of the punk frogs. Yeah,
I
they
haven't
were
read anything with the punk frogs or seen anything with the punk
in the
frogs. That's why.
cartoon. They were, I think Shredder created them, so they were like villains. But like right away, they're like, "Hey man, I don't really want to fight," and like they kind of became friendly. It was like a very quick turnaround. So he was a villain for like a minute, and then Ray Fillet, who also has another name,
Man Ray.
I
Ray
remember
or
them.
something.
They were a hero in the RG comics, I think.
Okay.
And they were like listed as hero in the toy, I think. Who was it? Leatherhead was always a villain.
Yeah. Bebop, Rocksteady are villains.
Villains, yeah. Wingnut, I think, was a hero. At least, but yeah, Wingnut was a hero.
Mondo Gecko.
Commando Gecko was a hero. Yeah, so a lot of them were either good or like ambivalent.
Yeah.
Like so I don't think they said let's pick villains. I think they said let's pick a bunch of interesting characters, make them all villains, and then they become friends. And
That's the thing. They weren't even really villains.
No, they were misguided, unloved. They weren't called the Foot, but
yeah. Scumbug, I liked that dynamic with Scumbug and Splinter. I thought that was really cool.
It was weird but good. Oh, that was something. This is something somebody somewhere brought. Oh, Double Toasted. There's a podcast which I should watch. It's like a video podcast, like this, Yeah. But I always catch highlight clips of it on Instagram and TikTok, and like that's how I watch it. Yeah. But the two guys on that were talking about it, and they were saying how this was kind of the best Splinter. And I agree and don't agree, because it's not my favorite Splinter for like a lot of aesthetic reasons and stuff. But their point was very well made that in a lot of ways, he was the most of a father Splinter, because usually he's the sensei and he loves him and he cares, but he's like, I'm the sensei. And this one, you saw like kind of a guy that was a little bit of a mess and just loved his kids and wanted to save them, wasn't doing the best job, but just like he was a dad. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. And like everything he did, good, bad, or indifferent, was because he loved his kids. It wasn't about defeating Shredder. It wasn't about training them. Like, like it was, So he was like, that was cool. I thought that was cool. And even the worrying about the milking and then they're being milked. He was like, I knew it.
That was so funny. Oh man. The milking subplot was just hilarious. What is that? Oh, it's nothing. It's not a milking machine.
And even when they're getting milked, like they're being killed, they're more worried. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's milking. Like,
yeah, that was a good running joke with it. I liked Ice Cube as Superfly. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. The Baxter Stockman kind of twist I liked. Not twist, but more like twist is in like it's a plot twist on the lore, I should say.
Yeah, instead of him becoming the Fly, he was like the father to the Fly.
Yeah. Gosh, what else was there? The whole bowling alley scene I liked, where they're like talking to them and they're like, yes, like, what do you guys do? Oh, we just wreck stuff. Okay. Wait, so what's your guys' plan? Oh, we're just gonna get rid of all the humans. Then nobody will make fun of us. Oh,
right.
Ooh. Then I liked April. I thought so. The thing about April, and this is a bias mostly to me, and other people in my scenario, is I've seen that actress in a lot of stuff, and she plays, in my opinion, very similar roles. So like I've seen most of those mannerisms and like way she talks in other things. Like she's in the show The Bear, and like a lot of those two characters had overlap. So to me, I'm like, it's kind of like when you watch De Niro and stuff now. He doesn't have as much range, and this is nothing against her, but like part of her charm is that you get, and I've seen it so much recently she
was asked to be that thing that she does.
Kind of.
I've never seen The Bear. I don't know what else she's in, but I didn't have that. Oh, her doing her, like, I didn't know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name again?
I don't remember her name. I think it was Io something.
Okay.
You had it up. But no, I really like her. It's just because I just finished The Bear, I was like, this is very similar.
Gotcha.
That
wasn't an issue for me. I'm also a sucker for puke jokes. And so she had the puke joke. And I love when she got her big chance and she's like, I'm going to do it. And she like is going to vomit and she swallows the vomit. I'm like, that's a power move. Yeah. That was cool. And then when a minute later she vomited anyway. I'm like, that's even better. Good.
Yep.
like she's like, look, I'm gonna vomit. I'm gonna swallow my own vomit, still vomit, and I still did it. And yeah, and the first one was like, I loved how it was like, it was like such a weird like fountain, like fire hose. Like yeah, I enjoyed that very much.
The mutagen kind of like Hydra monster that Superfly became at the end. I liked how it was like they tried to defeat him as like, you just got rid of one little horse.
Yeah.
I like how his hands were narwhal whales. That was kind of cool.
I also like how he was commenting on it. Like, look, I'm part whale now. What? I got horses? Or like, he's just like, yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
It was exactly what it needed to be.
Yes. And I was very happy that when they were like, Donnie, you know all this. Wait, was it Donnie or Mikey? Donnie, you know all this weird fighting giant monster stuff. I was so afraid they were going to do the AT-AT thing like they did in Spider-Man, And when he's like, no, let's Attack on Titan. I'm like, great. Totally works. And it's not the same thing we've seen. Yeah.
No, I did like the reference of other stuff. Like you got to see when they went around the school. She's like, you guys really want to go here? They're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, to me, it reminded me of like when you see a little kid just be introduced to something completely normal for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, a kid who's never been to Target before, and you're like, yeah, we just got to go pick up a thing. And they're like, what is this? This is great. Let's go. Did you see that? There's there's a dog there. And then this, like, it reminded me of that in a very endearing way.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. Agree.
No, that was cool. But that's all I have to say about it. It was good. I'm hoping there's a sequel. I'll probably get figures of those turtles eventually now that I've seen it. And that's that.
I'm holding out that they'll come out with like a slightly more collector version of them. If not, when the regular ones go on clearance, I don't know if I'll get all of them, but I'd probably get the 4 turtles at least. Well, I already have the answer, so.
You got the hard part out of the way, it seems.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it then. We're gonna do another. This is gonna go up now this week. We're recording it Tuesday night, so you'll probably be watching this Wednesday. Yep. And then we're going to record another one that'll go up next week. After that, things are going to get spotty. Big Dog's got some stuff going on.
Yep.
And do you want to talk about what's going on, or you want to just say stuff?
I am
Let's just say stuff.
All right, I got stuff going on, which make my schedule very hectic.
Yes.
And the show's not going anywhere, but if it's slower than normal, we'll tell you when it's relevant.
Yeah, and worst case, we're not going to leave it nothing. I might pop up and say something. Maybe I'll have a guest host. Maybe Big Dog will pop in without me. Yeah. But this week will be this. Next week will be a regular episode. After that, it's going to be weird for a little while. That's all we're saying.
Yep.
Right, until then, I've been Gazbot.
I am still the turtle dog today.
Oh, yeah, I'm Kaiju Baka. We'll talk about that next episode.
Yep. And to the power. See y'all later. So I think I told you I'm doing a read of start to current, which is very bold when it comes to turtles, but I'm at the Fugitoid era of the original turtle stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it gets very Star Warsy.
Yeah. Where are you at in your last turtle reading?
The last Ronin, you mean?
Just the last thing you read that had turtles in it.
Either Last Ronin or Power Rangers versus Turtles. Like that's I haven't read anything new recently.
So hyper modern.
What?
I said so hyper modern.
Hyper modern. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop this so we can make the next one.
Okay, sounds good.
We're gonna make the next one.